Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Dr. Anthony Horvath. I will be your host tonight. I know what you're thinking. Where's the fancy intro music? Where's the awesome looking intro video? Well, there isn't one this time because it's just me. And yeah, I have limits to what I can do, and what you're going to see today is what I'm willing to do. And you probably also noticed there wasn't a really fancy thumbnail either. Well, as we get going and as you subscribe, you see how it works, and as you participate, then there will be even more incentive to add those things and take care of those things. I'm kind of stalling a little bit here to see if any of the people that I thought might join us, and they are not here yet. Okay, that's fine. Let me just... So, one of the reasons why I had that intro there is so that you understand that there's no manager in the back taking care of things. There's just me. So if I have to duck out to help someone get logged in to the show, it's just what I have to do. So the purpose of this podcast is ultimately to help promote the authors that we publish at Guten Book Press, to promote their books, to promote the website, GutenBookPress.com. And the thing is we've got about 30 authors, and everyone has a lot of insight, a lot of things to say and talk about. And we have not, to this point, attempted to really capitalize on the fact that we have this great bench, excuse me, of people who can speak eloquently about things. I mean, they're authors, right? Okay, so maybe they can't speak eloquently, but they can write eloquently, and I'm sure some of them can speak okay too. None of them are joining me tonight, at least that they have said to me, but we're going to get this started anyway and give you a taste of the format. But if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there are two books by Sam Peckham, Jesse Seed and A Bed in Sheol. Sheol is the Old Testament word for the place of the dead. It's often translated as hell, but a lot of times it's not translated at all, which is wise because we don't really know what Sheol is. At any rate, you can gather from that title that the main character is not having a great time. Sam will eventually join us, and we do have an interview with Sam posted on the Guten Book Press YouTube channel, so you can check that out. Check out his book, purchase it, support this channel, subscribe, find him on X, find me on X. We're going to get on Rumble as well. Please like the Rumble page. We got the links in the description. Don't you get tired of all this introductory crap? I know, but it's a necessity. We had to do it. So one of the things that's going to set this podcast apart is that we're going to try to talk about grand themes that stretch through time. And one of the things that I don't like about, I shouldn't say it like that. Something that's different about me versus other people is I do not like being locked into whatever the conversation, the national conversation is today. Because in my opinion, those narratives are being set by people that a lot of times I don't even agree with. I don't like them. I don't think that their assessment about what is important and what is not is accurate. And just because everybody in the blogosphere, I guess that's what we used to call it, in the podcast sphere, in the newspapers, on X, wherever else. Just because everyone else is talking about that, I don't want to have to be talking about that. I don't like that. And that's actually been one of the reasons why I have, excuse me, a little hair sticking out there. One of the reasons why I have postponed having this series, because the truth is, if you're going to do something like this on a regular basis, you have to have content on a regular basis. You have to have something to talk about on a regular basis. And current events, obviously, is a fertile field for that. But I don't like it for the reasons I already mentioned. So the solution that I settled on is instead to go back a year, 2 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, I would say at least 6 months back, to find articles, essays, books, maybe movies, maybe video clips, something that is old, something that has had a chance to age, something that is not bound to the current events of today, which are going to necessarily be charged with partisan fervor, most likely. And it could even be it doesn't necessarily have to be partisan, but the fact is, if something's coming out now, a lot of times we don't have all the information about it, do we? We make the best judgments that we can while we're in the moment, but more information is yet to come in, and when we have that information, it may change how we look at it completely. And that's the way that I prefer to live my life as much as possible. I don't like to live on the bubble. That's what I call it for people who like that, people who are all about that. They're on the bubble. So when the bubble pops, you better have something to stand on, and having the opportunity to think through these issues in a more deliberate way, I think, really helps. By having the benefit of hindsight, we can look at some of these articles. We can see the claims they make, the things they say, and there's a little bit of time that's passed. We can decide, how much on the money were they? Where were they right? Where were they wrong? What do we think about it? So on and so forth. So that's going to be the format until someone tells me until like thousands of people tell me it's a really stupid idea. That's going to be the format. And the other part of the format will be people will join us. And as part of the requirement to their joining us, they've got to have interacted with the essay or article or whatever and be prepared to say a few things about it. And it's a way to sort of keep the podcast on track as well. Excuse me. So I'm kind of watching the chat room here to see if anyone pops in and requests access. If that happens, I'm going to have to, move things around on the stream real quick. So the title of the podcast is about technology and human hubris. I'm going to be looking at this article as my benchmark. Benchmark's probably not the word. This is going to be the skeleton that guides the discussion. I guess we'll put it that way. And if no one shows up, I'm just going to go through paragraph by paragraph and share my thoughts. And I'm sure that I'm going to veer off possibly significantly, as I am wont to do. It really is too bad that I wasn't joined by anybody yet, because I'm a really funny guy. And usually my ice-breaking jokes are just immediately immediately well received, and that would make this podcast take off so quick if I could just crack a few jokes or something like that right now. But alas, we're just going to get started, and I reserve the right to um, break out of the stream of consciousness as necessary. So before I get into the actual article, which you can see on the screen there, it's interesting to think about where where I used to be, how far I've come. Um, and I was thinking about how much to share about this, but like right now, you see me running this podcast pretty expertly, actually, even though it is just by myself. Yeah, I didn't have any, bumper music or anything like that. But I mean, come on, it's all right. I got a green screen going. I got picture inside a picture, and other parts of my life also show um, extreme skill in technological matters, if I do say so myself. And many people have noted this and observed this. And they are often surprised when they hear that I'm actually quite cynical and pessimistic about technology. I don't like it in a lot of ways. There's certain things that people expect me to be doing with technology that I just won't do. I'm not involved in it, for better or for worse. And they find this shocking. And so, sorry, guess I need a drink. I think I might need another drink. Don't try this at home, kids. What was I saying? So just for some perspective, I'm gonna share something that I haven't shared with anyone probably in 15 years, maybe longer. I bet you at least 20 years at this point. Um, so that would be it'd be between 97 and 98. And people who know me during that time um, will recall that I spent a lot of time pitching and promoting an idea. And I'm gonna share this idea right now, and probably my guess is you'll be like, wow, that's kind of boring. I mean, that's not very innovative or inspirational at all. But this was 1997, and a lot of the things that I wanted to do and I described were not. It was not like on the tip of your tongue kind of a thing. And the reason why I haven't talked about this for about 20 years plus is basically because after about 10 years, uh, probably into 2000, around 2005. I mean, this is not a hard number per se. I just decided no. Um, my idea, the thing that I thought would make me a trillionaire, richer than Elon Musk, and it probably still this idea could actually would be bad for society. It would be bad for civilization. It would be bad for people, and I reasoned that probably eventually somebody would do it, but at least it wouldn't be on my conscience. And so here's the idea, real quick. So you've heard of the autonomous vehicles, of course. They're out there. It's kind of a thing right now. But my divergence from that idea, I mean, obviously everyone's had. I mean, that's not self-autonomous driving vehicles are not, the stuff of brainiacs. I got it. How about this? I'll explain it like this. Like, do you remember the Jetsons? Remember the Jetsons, right? What with the flying cars and all? So even in 1997, 98, I had concluded that flying cars would be Very, very bad idea. Very cool. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have one. I would love to fly in one, but the idea of there being tens of thousands of flying vehicles, like not even very high above the ground, I would imagine. What's the movie with Bruce Willis? The Fifth Element, and others. Like that might not. Well, no, there's actual drivers. They had actual drivers in those too, so they weren't computerized. But the idea to take um, a vehicle, which is which we already know, like on the ground, there's 50,000 ish deaths a year to due to car crashes and whatnot, and that's just on the ground. That's just traveling normally, and we're gonna put that that dynamic above our heads. I mean, that's just what I need. I need a traffic jam right above my house. I need a flying bus to hit a flying Corvette and then crash onto the ground and kill another 50 people or something, like all the time. The chances that you could have a uh, a 100% safe system of Jetson style, Fifth Element style transportation like that in the in 1997 struck me as just positively absurd. There's just no way it would be a bad idea. But I still kind of like the idea of taking the control out of the driver's hands and putting computers in charge of it because but on the ground, but not on wheels. But I'll come back to that in a minute. Not on wheels. That's one of the important things. Um, because if you had, let's say you had a highway, and it was exclusively for um, autonomous vehicles. We'll just go with that scenario, and you let them manage the speeds and all the merging and all of that kind of stuff. You could conceivably get a much more efficient and fast drive in that way because the human error is excluded from this paradigm, right? So you could make a car that goes 200 miles an hour. Now you wouldn't trust a human with that on a normal basis, but if you had good algorithms, you could kind of make that work. Um, and you could get to California from New York, in at 500 miles an hour. I mean, I guess I don't know how fast we can make a combustion engine go. Um, I mean, I know obviously what the experiments are, but I mean like regular use kind of stuff. I don't know what's viable, but we'll say 200 miles an hour. Just work with me here. Don't just use your imagination. Just go along with it. The point is, you could have a much faster overall network of transportation if the computers were managing it. But the problem, the hitch, as I saw it, was that um, vehicles would still break down quite a bit, and if you don't have, um, I just don't trust that any AI or computer or algorithm type thing would ever be able to manage something like a tire blowing on I just don't see it working. So my idea was basically to use maglev to essentially put individual pods powered by magnetic levitation, which is a viable technology, and it was even then. But these little pods, and everything's on the rails then, and it would be much simpler because there'd be a lot fewer moving parts. You'd use a god awful lot of electricity, but it also required a mesh network of the internet that just didn't exist then. That was the days of AOL, dial up. We were still on dial up for real. We were still on 56K, but I saw already that it would be possible and desirable to create a mesh network of internet connectivity that had no breaks, that went across the whole country. And so you could have these individual pods on maglev. So it's not like a subway or a train or anything like that. You have your own vehicle, but it's on the maglev track. And now you're talking about talking about going 500 miles an hour. You could live in Michigan and work in Kentucky, and it would only take you half an hour or 45 minutes to get to work during the day. So you might get the idea from this kind of narrative that I was that I'm really big lover of technology. I even pitched this idea to Mark Cuban, the Mark Cuban. He had once said in a Facebook post that everyone should have a chance to give one big pitch to someone who could do it. So I made that pitch to Mark Cuban on Facebook. He never replied. But just think, if he had, he'd be up there with Elon Musk right now, right? Well, in the short term and in the long run, I came to the conclusion that any society so structured would basically fracture society. It would break it, and we might very well be still going in that direction. And I don't intend to participate, and I'm not going to get into why I think it'll break it too much in this particular episode. But it basically, it's a community. To have a community is right now, it's already distorted greatly by the automobile, just as it is. You can live 50 miles away from where you work, and 30 miles from where you go to church, and you can see people, but the time that you're making these connections with people are fragmented. And it would be further fragmented if you're now 500 miles away from all of the different points. There would be opportunities, there'd be benefits. And that's the way it is with all technologies. There are trade-offs, right? That's the way it works. But the cons definitely outweighed the pros, in my opinion. So when I look at an article like what I'm going to be looking at today, you can see his optimism, and you can bet that I do not share it. And how about we just kind of get into it a little bit here? Let me just double check the chat here, make sure no one is waiting to talk to me or anything. Nope. Okay, so did I mention yet that I'd be very upset if I find out that I'm not actually transmitting audio? How can I verify that? I can pull up the stream on my phone. Let's do that real quick. It's ridiculous, but suddenly very nervous about this. Okay, so nah, screw it. If I'll just delete this if I find out it's has no audio, and I'll be the only one who ever gets the joke. So, continuing. How about I make this a little bit bigger? And There we go. And move my big head over a little bit. There we go. And okay, so here we go. Now, it might be good for you to read this, maybe pause the video um, and read the article. It's linked in the description. But I'm going to go on, and I'm not going to read the article on the cast. That would be stupid, but I'll read snippets. You see, this is from spring 2021. So we are going back a few years. That's kind of part of my plan, right? We have some time. We have about 4 years ish since this has been written. We can kind of stand back and see what he thought, how things kind of panned out. So in these first paragraphs here, he's talking about how some people think that there's really no more room for any great innovations, the ones that utterly transform society, and he's gonna argue with that in a couple of different ways. So the first one here, yeah, this is not cool, but so the mRNA. Okay, I'm not going to get into a long diatribe about vaccines and vaccine safety. You'll be able to pretty much guess that I'm a little bit cynical about that as well. But you will likely recall that the COVID vaccines that came out tended to have it was a brand new technology. It basically provided code for the body to create the way to create my brain is kind of to provide the immunity by generating from within what was needed to do that. This is different than like the other vaccines, right? And do I really need to go into it? Like the other one, you would actually get the disease, right? And you get the disease, and then your body would generate antibodies through the natural process, your body's natural process of creating antibodies. This is skipping this. This isn't introducing the disease. It's just trying to manufacture the antibodies without respect to the actual disease. So that allowed potentially a quote vaccine. I don't even know if we should call these vaccines. They're so different. Much faster than the other vaccines. However, there haven't been the other vaccines had very long safety trials. They've been in use for a certain amount of time. They're not necessarily for that reason safe, but they're a known entity at least. This is something that came out and was deployed into the population before any real safety studies were done. How could they be done? In fact, I mean, it's been 2000. I guess they were out by then, weren't they? 2021. Certainly by the end of 2021. Were they out in spring of 2021 as well? I'm not really sure. Pretty close though, right? By definition, the longest lasting safety trial could only be about 3.5, 4 years at this point. Basically, they injected something into the body that was able to hijack the body's own genetic mechanisms for replication and to defeat this one disease. And gee, I hope everything goes great. I'm sure 10 years from now, everything will be just fine. We're hoping, I guess, right? I mean, we don't know. And what I see in this, what I see in this whole approach, it's not the vaccine per se. It's the faith and confidence in technology, yes. In human ingenuity, yes. Um, but it's almost like it's like a magic wand, or like a totem pole. It's like a little god. It's like Baal. It's like just because we have done this, it must be magnificent. And it's certainly, I mean, who's to doubt that this was a great achievement to be able to create a technology that can do this, but um, that doesn't mean that all the other concerns that we might have about the introduction of a technology, especially one like this, aren't still viable. But we as a society just said, no, it's cool. We're just gonna do it, man. We'll just do it. And I'm gonna come back to that when I talk about AI, which I will a little bit later. And it's interesting. Well, I won't get ahead of myself. Um, so this technology is quickly accelerating into other avenues, which scare the bejeevers out of me, and I just don't know. It just concerns me so much that people think this is a good idea. So I did take the time to find one article about it. Get rid of this stupid ad right here. Um, so so the trajectory of our technological advances with gene editing and whatnot, and the mRNA uh, method has a lot of people in the world and in the public health community, God bless them, thinking about things like this. Well, we've got this great technology. How do we get around the people who refuse to get vaccinated? Have an idea. What we'll do is we'll make a vaccine that is actually like a virus, and so it's going to spread from person to person like a virus, but instead you're getting the vaccine. Um, like they're saying here in this article, you would only have to vaccinate 5% of the UK population in order to vaccinate or immunize the entire population, given enough time. So they're better still. This could result in herd immunity, which suddenly we care about. Yeah, you could have had that all along, but no, let's do something else instead. Here, I hope you don't mind being locked in your room. Don't you dare go out on the beach by yourself. No. Herd immunity, I guess that's a good thing again. Um, there's two directions to take this particular cautionary tale about this. On the one hand, I mean, just what if they were to release this, and let's pretend that they give it the same kind of validation they gave the mRNA COVID vaccines, which is like like nothing, like 3 months, and then they hide all the data and try to prevent it from being seen for, what was it, 70 years or something? Yeah. It's ridiculous, right? Yeah. Don't look at our data, but it's perfectly safe. I could totally easily see your average public health person looking at this and saying, heck yeah, let's do it, man. We got all these vaccine deniers out there. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, who can we stick with these needles? Let's just get it going, man. Trials, safety tests. No, don't worry about it, man. Because there's nothing worse than the chicken pox. Do you know how many people die from the chicken pox every year? I mean, it's like there's so many. There's like piles of them. It's like the Holocaust out there. It's like they stick the dead in the ovens just to get rid of them all. I mean, chicken pox is so terrible. We have got to have this vaccine which spreads like a virus. Just think of the life that will be saved. The one person a year that might die from the chicken pox. Oh, pick whatever. Actually, I saw. I don't know if it's going to let me do it. I was looking at another article here. I don't know if it's going to let me show it, but maybe it'll allow me to see it enough so you can get the picture. Bet you we're going to get a same idea, but in this case only for animals. They want to use these spreading contagious vaccines from spreading Ebola and rabies and other viruses. So now we're not talking about something as relatively benign as like the chicken pox. Right now we're talking about Ebola, which is undoubtedly very, very horrible, very, very bad. But can you imagine, please, someone just imagine that they create even with the animals, they create this contagious vaccine and they deploy it. And then, they're not going to safety test it, because why would they safety test it? And what if something goes wrong with the technology? What if they put out a vaccine that's self-spreading like a virus for Ebola, and it goes horribly wrong, and now it's in the world. You can't bring it back. There's no way to wind it back. You're toast. You're in trouble, serious trouble. And if this is like I Am Legend type stuff, except for they're not all stuck on the island of Long Island in New York or wherever the poor Will Smith was stuck at. But they're gonna do this. They're gonna do this. The first chance that they get, because they have such a it's like a religious faith in technology. It's not about the vaccines per se. It's just the fact that it's a technology. We did it. We mean well. We have great intentions. Ebola bad. Bad. We want to get rid of it. This will do it. Let's do it. What could go wrong? And they'll do it. And then, so maybe it'll work the first 2 or 3 or 4 times, and they'll get even more confident in it as they go on. And then, after 10 years of relative success in it, they'll get cavalier and they'll do something. Then this time there will be a mistake, right? So this guy here, this is what we're leaping off here. This guy is very optimistic about gene editing, right? He had a quote here. This paragraph here. He in this paragraph he's talking about how all of this gene editing and whatnot is going to reverse aging. You can see this right here. And he makes a very interesting comment about living to, it'll allow us to finally live past 120, which is kind of I thought it was an interesting thing. Because, like, where would that 120-year limit come from? Actually, I think the evidence um, is out there that um, people appear to have been designed to actually live on and on and on and on. The fact that they die at all is kind of weird. But at any rate, I digress. I just thought it was funny because he mentions that. You can look at it in the article. But he's talking about helping people be so healthy because of all this technology that at age 65 you're practically a young whippersnapper. You can go out and have a whole new life. You can just go out there and do that. And isn't that just what you want? Is it, folks? I ask you, if you have been working for 55 years and you've worked hard. Let me do some math here. 55, 65, that'll be working since you're 10. We'll say 45. There we go. We'll go with 45. You worked hard for 45 years. You're looking forward to your Social Security, but lo and behold, medical technology is such that you're a young whippersnapper at age 65. The government says, nope, no more Social Security for you. You could actually go out and work for another 50 years and be just as productive as the previous ones. Have at it. It'd be great for the economy, right? Is this what you always wanted? This is what they want, and they're going to do this. They'll do this. Absolutely no question in my mind. Are they going to ask us? Are they going to ask you? Do you want to live to be 120? Let me just ask you this. And you might say you want to live to be 120 in your current health situation. Although, maybe you don't, given the same. I don't want to live to be 120. I am not in love with this world. What's the Rich Mullins song? It won't make me sad to see it go away. I don't need to be here for the ride. At any rate, my point is they're gonna do this without really thinking through whether or not anybody wants it, whether it's a good idea, what the ramifications are going to be. They're just gonna do it because wow. Here's what it says. All this stuff would be such an advance, it would upend the entire economy. Yeah, everyone gets to work for the better part of their life. That would be an advance, wouldn't it? So I want to pause here and just sort of say a few words about technology itself as a thing. Now that we've had a chance to look at one that this guy is really excited about. And he's not wrong that it would utterly what he's talking about would utterly transform society, and it would do it fairly quickly. But the unseen and the unintended consequences to this are going to be just nuts. But like I said, they're going to do it. As soon as they're able to do it, they'll do it, and they're going to completely. My guess is, just looking back at how they've done so far, they're going to completely F it up. They're going to destroy lives. People are going to die by the hundreds of thousands, probably. And they're going to be like, oh, how did this happen? We meant well. That's what I can see. Because that's the way they are. That's who they are. They have like absolutely no people like this never take the blame for anything. It's just not in their nature. As long as they meant well, and as long as they were being evidence-based, And as long as they were using the finest technology, then how could they be blamed? How could they possibly be blamed? But a word about technology is, so the thing about technology is, this is a I kind of view it maybe in a broader way. I have thoughts about technology, like what we even mean by it. So I remember talking with a friend, and I remember this is a while back, and I made the statement that technology was morally neutral, or maybe I said it was neutral. And he was, oh no, he was, fit to be tied. That's not no technology is neutral. He insisted, and but what I meant was they're all morally neutral. So how you actually use a technology. Um, a and what's the old statement? You can't get an ought from an is, and so technology is very much like an is. Um, the name of that philosopher is on the tip of my tongue, but I don't need to regale you with all the things that I know. I suppose I can let that one fly. Um, but you can't get an ought from an is. So really, any technology is an is. Um, I have here um, a letter opener. Honest, that's what it is. That's what it's for. But obviously, you could see I could probably kill somebody with it, and there's a big moral difference between killing somebody with it and opening a letter with it. So, but as it is, it's a morally neutral object. But his point was, and he's not wrong, that it may be morally neutral. I don't know if he would even agree with that, but it certainly is not neutral in terms of its impact and implications, especially in the hands of humans who are not morally pristine people. There's no morally pristine person out there. There's strong rumors that there was one, um, and that he's still around, and I adhere to those rumors. I believe those rumors to be fact. But for the rest of us, we're pretty crappy, honestly. And then put us all together, especially give us the coercive powers of the state, we're pretty much going to screw it up, and we're going to hurt a lot of people in the process. So any technology in that kind of a context, in the hands of flawed human beings, is not neutral. It will have an impact somewhere down the line. And so one example that I think possibly has some currency out there is like the nuclear bomb. So this is actually kind of my point. So obviously using the nuclear bomb um, has moral overtones to it, doesn't it? If you wipe out 100,000 people in a split second, that has a moral overtone. Yeah. Um, on the other hand, you could try weighing that against how you have the nuclear weapons, and that is a deterrent from another. It keeps another country from wiping out hundreds of thousands of people in your country because they fear retaliation. So in that case, just having it but not using it, but knowing that you might use it, also has a moral overtone to it. But one of the things about nuclear weapons that I don't think people have really thought through quite. In fact, I'm sure they haven't, because um, I struggle to, and I actually try to pay attention to this stuff in a way that I find that a lot of people find to be boring. But just to keep nuclear weapons um, ready to go means that they had to be tested, the materials had to be gathered, There were nuclear tests that did a lot of contamination. Those have ended for the most part. I believe probably North Korea has done one or two. I don't know if that's been confirmed, but I could just also be pulling that out of my rear. They would do it, right, if they thought they could get away with it. There have been accidents. Planes have planes with live nuclear weapons have crashed. Greenland is in the news. There was a case in at Thule where something like that happened. There was actually a nuclear missile that was launched in Arkansas by accident. Did you know this? It only went like 100 yards or something, and it didn't, explode as a nuclear warhead or anything. But I mean, that's kind of bad, right? You don't want your nuclear rockets flying out of their silos prematurely for, you just don't want that. So you have this technology really has it spawns an institutional arrangement around it as well, and I would consider that also to be a technology in a broader sense. Um, like the way that we do schooling, I would view that as a technology, and with a lot of downsides, actually, mostly downsides. So basically, I mean, I just real quick. I mean, I'm not gonna. This is not about education or the educational system or the indoctrinational system, however you want to put it. So you send kids to school, you divide them up by age, you divide them up by subjects, right? So you go to math class, and then a bell goes off, and they all get up, and they go to their next class, and then they learn about science, and then a bell goes off. It's almost like they're being prepared to be good little workers, right? But if you notice in this scenario, I mean, they don't have the benefits of a wide interaction with people who are outside of their age group. Just because a junior and a freshman are not in the same age group. I'm talking about, like, generationally speaking. I bet you if you put 15 kids in an American history class with 15 70-year-olds in the same class, that those 15-year-olds are going to have an entirely different experience and understanding about American history than if they just sort of, bounce it off, a 17-year-old that might be nearby. And that's all like foreclosed on them, right? They're everything that they know. They do have the teacher, which presumably is a expert in their field, presumably. But for the most part, all of knowledge is like partitioned, chop chop chop. You got box here, box there, and nothing really ties them together. And they're all only being digested by the peers. That is going to have implications and consequences on a society. Like, you're churning out a certain kind of person at mass scale, and I don't think we've really thought through. In fact, I know, like if you were to go up, if I were to present this information to somebody in a compelling way and say, okay, now what do you think could be in society right now? Can you identify someone who seems to have been the fruit of a system like this in a way that you think isn't quite great? I don't think they're going to be able to come up with something, because we're swimming in it, right? We're immersed in it. We don't have a standoff point of view. to see the bigger picture. And that's actually, like, if you ask me that question, that is actually precisely the thing that we're missing. We don't have a population that is able to see the bigger picture very well, because reality has been delivered to them in boxes, in compartments that do not mix. And they have not been exposed to people with experience about those things. They received content amongst their peers, but they did not receive experience. And certainly there is a connection between the way the knowledge interacts from subject to subject, but they weren't really taught. They're taught by the very structure that they're separate. The very structure does it. It's not like someone set out to say, we're going to make it so that people view knowledge as individual boxes. No, the structure teaches that. For example, Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, right? That is a criticism of technology, right? It's a criticism of technology, but it is occurring in literature. It's a criticism of the audacity of the scientific mindset, right? But you're seeing it in literature. But unless you're incorporating and integrating, if you're reading Frankenstein, completely independent of any kind of real world discussion about technology, are you really even going to be able to appreciate Frankenstein? I don't think you will, and you're not going to be able to see real world parallels to it. And I think that's a really good example of why, like what I'm talking about here in this essay, they see a technology, they say, isn't that great? It's only about genetics and living longer. All the other things, even though he sees it, right, it would upend the entire economy. Well, so he knows, right? He knows that this little thing would have big consequences. But no one's going to spell them out. No one's going to be able to see it themselves. It's going to be a big mess. Let me go on. So this is a good one. This is about using the heat that's in the earth. This is okay insofar as it is. He's talking about the heat in the earth being so much. Basically, if we could tap into geothermal energy, we wouldn't need really anything else. We're just not willing to do it. And so this is an example of I would like to talk more about this. I have thoughts. I have thoughts about this as well. Let me just pause 1 second and make sure no one has popped in and said, "Hey, let me into the broadcast." Sorry, I have 200 tabs open. You think I'm joking? You think he's exaggerating? No, I have 200 tabs open. Okay, nothing. So continuing. So this is a okay, I don't necessarily see the same kind of tragic downsides to basically unlimited cheap energy as I do replicating virus vaccines and gene editing. But I do think that there are people who know very, very well what would happen if suddenly we had access to energy that was so cheap it could even be considered almost free. it would put out of business the oil industry. Well, I mean, no. I mean that's not fair. Because just because you have heat from the earth doesn't mean that you have the stuff that you need to make plastics and things of that sort. So there's always going to be a need for oil. But obviously, a major dent in the oil industry's profits, but also, as he points out, a major dent in the renewable energy stuff too. And in both of these cases, in many respects, energy is being used as a weapon by the powers that be. In fact, I've I have believed for a long time that the renewable energy movement has actually been sort of the liberal counter answer to the oil industry. Like people who go out and extract oil from the earth are tough as nails. They're highly competent. They their business is essentially a commodity. It's a commodity, right? Is subject to free market pressures and very sensitive to them. Oil workers in the oil industry tends to be conservative because they know how the world works. And they know that the world needs their oil, and they've tried to protect themselves in certain ways, but they generally have leaned conservative, and meanwhile the poor liberals have been left out. But now we have the Green New Deal, right? Now we have something that the liberals can get involved in. It's, you got your wind and you've got your solar. I mean, I think I don't want to describe to you what I'm seeing right now, but it wasn't that pretty. I'll have to, if anyone ever wants to ask me about it in some other context, I will tell you. And just remind me, it had something to do with my parakeets and their very lewd behavior. Ongoing lewd behavior. I wondered if any of them, if I had a male or a female, or both. I think I have the answer to that question now. I've said too much. Moving on. I got a text. Let's see what it is. All right. Where was I? I guess maybe I shouldn't get too far afield on this. The thing is can you imagine if cheap, almost free energy suddenly entered the marketplace? It would completely demolish the both sides of that equation, right? The government grant bonanza that's fueling renewable energies would just be kaput, because why do you even need them, right? Just a second here. In fact, I might pause myself just to think someone might be talking to me here. Wait a minute. How can I pause myself? I'm not transmitting audio through this. Continuing then. Where was I? Oh, yes. Cheap, free energy would be a threat to both paradigms. And therefore, neither of them will allow it to happen. And that speaks to what I mean about how these technologies, especially these really big and powerful ones that have a big impact, they spawn the infrastructure around them that are also a technology in a sense. They're institutional frameworks that themselves have implications and complications and effects. And We haven't really come to terms with that, and we're so kind of ignorant about it. Um, when I say ignorant in this sense, I mean like we're not even thinking about it, and since we're not thinking about it, and we can't become aware of it and ask ourselves the question, but should we be doing this? Should we be doing it? That question never gets asked. So this guy, he's right from what I understand. The geothermal energy would. Well, hear what he says. Geothermal energy can make the electricity grid rock solid while reserving battery storage for electric vehicles where we need it most. Well, that's kind of like, well, maybe okay, fine. Um, if suddenly there was cheap, free, virtually unlimited energy, it would utterly and radically transform society because we do not appreciate how the costs of energy are um, a lodestone, a weight around our necks. And the smaller that cost is, the more we do. We just do it naturally. We don't even think about it. Innovators say, "Oh, hey, I can do this now because energy is really, really cheap." Or they say, "Wow, I can't do that because the cost to move it across the country in a truck would be unbearably high." And those are the decisions made by the invisible hand. But rest assured, free, cheap energy will never happen because the powers that be on both sides will never allow it to happen. Kind of feeling like I should wrap it up here a little bit. So he goes on and talks about starships a little bit. I'm not gonna and Elon Musk. It is interesting how this is 2001. This is before Elon Musk got political, right? Um, I wonder if this guy still likes Elon Musk. But I want to go up because what's interesting to me is that he hardly talks about AI at all. And if you think about it, and back in 2001, how quickly now AI is like everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Stocks like Nvidia are going just nuts because of it, right? And yet this barely makes a blip on his screen here. The only thing is he talks about machine learning with regards to studying protein folding. But apart from that's as close as you get to AI in this. But if you ask a lot of people right now, they really believe, and this is a sudden realization. That's my point. Like 4 years ago, no one was talking at, with the same kind of enthusiasm and what would be the word? Almost like a breathless conversation about AI and all of its good things and very few of the bad things. How could there possibly be a bad thing? It's technology, right? Um, how quickly things change, right? So I do want to say something about AI, even though I can easily see AI being something that we talk about a lot on the as we go forward in this series. To me, AI is exactly one of those technologies that um, there is a lot of talk about the benefits. People are falling pell mell into different AI schemes. There's is some conversation about the potential downsides to AI, but they're not significant. Not getting near the hearing. They're spoken almost in hushed terms. But actually, this article almost calls into attention, or brings up the one of the points that some people have made. Go back to this paragraph. At today's retirement age, you can embark on a whole new career. But isn't it interesting that many people are talking about AI replacing all of these careers? So you could get to a point where The genetic technologies are such that people don't die until they're like 300 years old, but computers are doing all the work. They're doing all their careers. There's nothing left for the people to do, and suddenly you have a whole new like question like what what do you do with all the people who are doing nothing? All the useless eaters, shall we call them? Dare I say? Uh, like so, the combination of these technologies could separately they have their own issues, but combined they could pose some real problems, especially in the hands and in the minds of a certain kind of person that just thinks that it is just pure joy to manage populations. Like, oh, the pleasure it gives them. Like Sim City, right? You ever play Sim City? It's a fun game, right? It's a fun game. You build the buildings. You make sure they have enough food to eat. All your citizens have enough food to eat. Make sure they have jobs so they don't riot and all this other stuff. There are people who just love that in real life. Like they have no meaning and purpose in their life if they are not micromanaging the affairs of hundreds of thousands, if not millions. They would micromanage billions if they could. And they're smart enough. They're smart enough. Don't worry. And they're benevolent enough. Yes, they love people a lot more than you. They're smarter than you. They will use evidence-based mechanisms all the way. And now suddenly they're in a situation where AI is taking over all the jobs and people are living to be 200 years old. They are the man for the job. What could possibly go wrong? So the solutions that people are like many people view this as like this is like the golden age. We've got robots doing all of our work very competently, supposedly. People are living longer, and but there's like nothing for them to do. I mean, to be honest, if you think about it, the happiest person is the person who has actually absolutely no meaning in life, right? There's no reason to get up, no no challenge, no obstacles. Everything's just perfect in their life, and all their needs are met by slave robots. And this is what everyone desires, right? Surely you see that I'm being sarcastic, right? It's like that scene from The Matrix where Agent Smith is telling Neo, I'm pretty sure that was that they originally made the Matrix the other universes for the people to be like utopian perfect, and it just the people would just die. They were just miserable with it. They had to like create a world of chaos in order for people to have a life worth meaning. Well, we're actually almost on the verge of creating, especially if you listen to this guy. I mean, we could be there within like 10 years. People living practically forever at the very same time that AI is taking over all the things that they need to do. I'm sure people will be just absolutely thrilled with this. It'll be great. And the answers to this, like people are putting out UBI, universal basic income, things like that. This is a perfect example, though, of the kind of thing where we have got to absolutely must think critically about what the actual implications are going to be. And I'm not saying don't be like guessing, don't be playing like you should be doing if you're serious about this kind of thing, you should be doing some like small scale social experiments and stuff voluntarily, of course. You have to tell the population managers that it's voluntary, right? You can't do it against their will. They have to know it. Um, I know that you don't get the best results when people know they're actually in the experiment. But come on, Milgram. Anyway, where was I? because if this happens, if this genie is let out of the bottle, it could just be chaos in a way that I don't think we've really appreciated what it could be. I can in another episode maybe I'll make some predictions, but one quick prediction I think is that the population controllers are going to say, well, first and foremost, first thing we have to do is we got to get rid of 5 billion people because it's just not going to work otherwise. Anyway, so you can see how I feel about that. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. If you watched this far, I really appreciate that you did so. The next episodes will be kind of similar, but in terms of we'll find a essay or something from a few years ago, and we'll talk about it. Hopefully, I'll have some other people here who can also contribute their own thoughts, so that you're not just listening to me. Not that there was anything wrong with that, right? I'm sure you benefited greatly by my winsome attitude and eloquent speech and insightful commentary. And maybe we shouldn't cloud that with the introductions of other people who might not have the same kind of intellectual mastery that I do. But yeah, okay, we better get some other people involved here. I see what you're saying. I'm with you. We'll try to do that for next time, and maybe the caliber of the whole show will add up. So I'm gonna wrap it up by saying, let's get this out of the way here. Pull this up. So go out and get those books, read them, leave reviews on Amazon. You can reach out to Sam. He's very accessible. You can connect with me if you need help finding him. He would love to see reviews of his book. Right now, as I'm broadcasting this, the ebooks are available for $1 each, and you're not going to find them cheaper than that, literally. The hardcovers are great and beautiful. I should know. I was the one that produced them and published them. So buy these books, support the show, subscribe here on YouTube, subscribe on X, subscribe on Rumble, and in due time, be prepared to send me money in advertising or whatever. I'm winking right now, but you can't see it. Oh, there I am. I winked. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Until next time, Dr. Anthony Horvath from GutenPodcast signing off. Good night.